Calm in the chaos. Part 2, peace of mind. You know, with everything that's going on in this season of world history, it's fairly evident to recognize that on the whole, I think everybody's sense of equilibrium has been disrupted, right? I'm feeling of sorts. And I suspect that we're all feeling that. And with the result that, you know, in the same way that coronavirus presents itself with certain telltale symptoms like, sore throat or difficulty breathing or loss of taste or smell, I think that most of us are walking around with other kinds of telltale symptoms of this disequilibrium. Symptoms like stress and tension and anxiety and worry and fear and discouragement and depression and hopelessness. And last week, just recently, I was up in Goshen. I was pulling out of a public parking lot. Light turned green. I was going left, and the person in the lane next to me was going straight through. They paused, for that fraction of a second that people do when they don't see the light change, right? I don't know if they were texting and not paying attention or asleep. I don't know what had happened, but they halted like for a millisecond longer than we would expect somebody to halt at us. You know what I'm talking about? That person. And when you're behind them, you do the little beep beep. Hey, the lights change, dude. Time to engage and drive, right? We've all been there. But in this instance, the person behind them laid on their horn. And laid on the horn all the way through the intersection. This was more than just lights green. It was some sort of gesture more. For me, it's like that is what it's like right now. People are just so irritable. And I think it's just this. It's a telltale symptom that we're not just being infected physiologically by some sort of contagion that's spreading the earth. We're being infected emotionally. We're being infected psychologically, and we're being infected spiritually in our hearts and in our minds. We're becoming not just diseased in our bodies, we're becoming diseased. See what I did there? We're becoming diseased inside as well. And so in order to help us just better connect with this morning's teaching, as we continue in this message series of finding calm in the chaos, I want to begin by just giving you space to get in touch with your own sense of disequilibrium, with your own sense of dis-ease. And so I want you to take a moment to reflect on these questions. So how is it that you would find or observe yourself reacting to everything that's going on right now? How are you reacting internally? What's going on inside of you? How are you reacting externally? What symptoms of dis-ease are you experiencing? Are you finding yourself more stressed, more tense, more anxious, more worrisome, more fearful, discouraged, depressed, hopeless, irritable, etc.? All right? And think of a present or recent situation which has robbed you of peace of mind. Maybe it's what's going on in the world. Maybe it's a particular individual or a particular circumstance that you're finding yourself in. Name what it is that is robbing you or has recently robbed you of peace of mind. What is your current robber of peace? You think about that? I'm going to take a sip of coffee. For me, just to continue to threat against my peace of mind has just, first of all, been the weight of being called to be a pastor to the bride of Christ, in the season when the bride of Christ is honestly not very healthy. That's been a heavy weight that I've personally been experiencing in the season when a lot of Christians are, quite frankly, checking out. They're checking out, and that draws heavily against my peace of mind in the season. As a matter of fact, just as a quick footnote here, some of you may have seen, I posted yesterday. Listen to it. I really want you to listen to it. You really need to it. I think it's an important message for the followers of Christ in the season that we're in right now. And so I just posted it up, so it'd be posted it last night, so it'd be a little bit more accessible. I went to take a look this morning. I'd gotten some messages over the course of the evening and the course of the night. 300 views since yesterday evening. But I've gotten texts from pastors. Well, I shouldn't say all over the globe. Austin, Texas, Russia, pastor from Indianapolis, a couple pastors here in Indiana who have just resonated with this sense of, I am feeling this burden for the bride of Christ and how unhealthy the church is. A pastor in Indianapolis says, I'm ready to quit. I'm just ready to quit right now. I feel that weight, church. I'm not ready to quit, but this is a heavy season. But then, so on top of the unhealthiness that exists right now in the bride of Christ, it's a heavy weight on me to be the husband to the bride of my youth when her health is failing. And so I'm feeling the weight of two unhealthy brides. And that's been a very real and a very heavy weight on my sense of internal peace. And so what is it for you? That's not your journey, but you've got your own journey and the things that are robbing you of your peace of mind. So I want to begin with defining peace of mind, defining what it is, and maybe more helpfully is defining what it isn't, because I suspect that for most of us, peace of mind conjures up images like this of some Zen-like tranquility. I think we have a tendency to think of peace as this condition of complete absence of inner turmoil, inner peace, that is found in an environment of external tranquility. See, you know what I'm saying? It's internal peace that we can step into when we step into a place that is devoid of external turmoil. Well, doesn't that sound great? Wouldn't you like to be there? Well, yeah, of course we do. But listen, that is actually not a good definition of peace. It's not a good definition of peace of mind, and it's certainly not a biblical definition for the followers of Jesus. Because think about this. If we hold this perspective of that's what peace is, and that's where peace is found, then the pursuit of peace becomes an external pursuit. It becomes an external pursuit. In order for me to get peace, in order for me to get to the place of peace internally, I have to get to the place of peace externally. In order for me to experience the absence of inner turmoil, I've got to go to the place where that is devoid of internal. No, I said that backwards, didn't I? In my brain, I just said it backwards. In order for me to get to the place of the absence of internal turmoil, I need to go to that place that is absent of external turmoil. And so, in that perspective, Peace basically equates to a vacation in the Bahamas or a retreat in the woods or the mountains or something to that effect. Peace is, I need to get away from it all. No, don't get me wrong. It's certainly beneficial to get away from it all, right? It's a good habit, but we can't live there. We can't live there as much as we'd like to. And listen to this, even if we could live there, the peace won't last long because whether we realize it or not, we pack our disequilibrium and we pack our dis-ease with us wherever we go. That will not stay peaceful long because you will be there. Right? Right? Wherever you go, there you are. And there's your baggage, there's your stuff, there's your disease as well. And so peace, and certainly from a biblical point of view, is not a matter of external geographical relocation. It's a matter of an relocation. Because peace, biblical peace, is not the absence of peace, is the presence of internal stability. Of internal stability of heart and internal stability of mind, even in the midst of external tumult. Does that make sense? Peace is the presence of interior stability, even in the midst of exterior tumult. Now, consider some biblical examples. In John 14:27, Jesus tells his followers, don't be troubled. Meaning, be at peace. Don't be troubled. I'm leaving you. Isn't that a great connection of phrases? Don't be troubled, I'm leaving you. Oh, I'm leaving you with the gift of my peace. But think about this. Jesus' path from that point forward did not result in him presenting the disciples with with tickets to a cruise. I'm giving you the gift of peace. Here, go on a cruise, boys. Right? That's not what happened. Jesus' own path from that point forward led directly to a brutal crucifixion. Right? And the paths of those followers to whom Jesus promised the gift of his peace, their paths went straight down the path of persecution, ending in martyrdom. Right? You understanding that? I'm giving you the gift of peace, boys. Let's go get crucified. Jesus, do you not understand peace? Absolutely, he does. So what's the point? The point is this. If Jesus' peace is a geographical relocation, if biblical peace is just rearranging the furniture on the deck of the Titanic, right? If it's an external change of scenery, then Jesus' promise of peace to his followers would have certainly resulted in our instantaneous translation into a way better zip code. All right? A way better zip code than any beach in the Bahamas or any mountain or forest getaway that we typically associate with the pursuit of peace, right? Right? And so Jesus' promise of peace to you is not the promise of rearranged external conditions around you here on earth. It's the promise of rearranged internal conditions within you here on earth. We need to be clear about that condition or about that definition of peace as we consider this week, and this is going to bleed into next week, by the way. We need to be clear on what peace is and what peace isn't as we pursue the peace of the Father. And so let me say this just to put a fine point on what I'm saying right now. If you are finding yourself trying to find peace in this season by choosing some version of a geographical fix, you're running, you're checking out, you're just getting away from it all, because you think that's a healthy Christian peace choice. You're going the wrong out in this season because you think that's the pathway to peace. You're wrong. You are making the wrong choice. You are drifting out of the light and into the shadows. And the peace is not in the shadows right now, because peace isn't an exterior shift. Peace is an interior shift. Well, let's also be clear about this, that neither is biblical peace of mind the insensitivity to turmoil. Turmoil. That is, biblical peace isn't some state of unconscious oblivion to chaos and everything that's going on around us, right? It's like, what? I'm in the middle of a hurricane and I've been impaled by a 2x4 that's on fire? Had no idea. I'm just I'm in the peace zone, right? That's not biblical peace. That's just oblivion, right? That's just inhuman, or it's denial. It's something, but it ain't biblical peace. All right? And again, consider some biblical examples. The only time the expression peace of mind can actually be found in an English translation of the Bible is in 2 Corinthians 2:13, NIV translation, where the Apostle Paul says that he actually couldn't find any peace of mind. I had no peace of mind because he was looking for somebody. He was looking for Titus. I think he's in Troas, and he couldn't find Titus. And he's saying, I just couldn't get any peace of mind. I couldn't get any rest in my spirit because he couldn't find who he was looking for. And so listen to this, consider this. Paul, who undoubtedly understood what it meant to live his life in the peace of Christ, all right, shows us here in 2 Corinthians 2:13 that Christian peace includes a realistic awareness of turmoil. It's a realistic awareness of turmoil. Christian peace is not some sort of oblivious, Zen-like unawareness of difficulty. Does that make sense? The intentional denial that things are not going well. Christian peace is found in external reality. All right? Another biblical example. Consider Jesus praying in the Garden of Gethsemane. Jesus said, "My soul is deeply troubled." My soul is deeply troubled. Did Jesus walk in complete peace of mind? I'm guessing he did. He certainly did, right? Jesus walked in peace of mind. And at the same time, do we see in Jesus' experience of being troubled that he still lived in this experiential awareness of life's ordeal? As a matter of fact, there are several times throughout the gospel accounts that we're told that Jesus was deeply troubled in his spirit. And so being at peace for Jesus, it didn't mean in the Garden of Gethsemane, what? I'm about to get crucified, brutally beaten and crucified? No sweat. Water off a duck's back. That's not what Jesus did. That's not biblical peace. That's just denial. Jesus had an awareness, an experiential awareness of, wow, this is going to be painful. That's the reality, but still he walked in peace, all right? So what's the point? I'm just wanting to encourage us, church, that we need not live under this false, unrealistic, and unbiblical expectation of what the peace of God should look like for us, especially in this turbulent season of world history. With all that's going on, it would certainly be normal. It would certainly be human. It would certainly be even Jesus-like for us to feel a little out of sorts. Can you give yourself permission to feel a little out of sorts, to feel the turmoil, to feel a certain sense of disequilibrium and dis-ease, and dare we say it, for us to even feel deeply troubled? And at the same time, be at peace. I think we can. So, pull that all together. Peace isn't an external condition. It's an internal condition, and regardless of the external conditions. And neither is peace an internal condition that is ignorant or oblivious to what's going on around us. It's an internal condition of stability that's based on a realistic awareness and a realistic appraisal of what's going on around us. Making sense? All right, I just felt that was important groundwork to lay as we press into the peace of the Lord. And so next what I want to do is I just want to spend a few moments helping you get a handle on why a particular thing or a particular circumstance or a particular person may be robbing you of peace of mind. A few years ago, Duke University's study identified that there were several common key factors that greatly contribute to our experience of the absence of internal peace or peace of mind. And when I read this study, I found that I resonated with the findings, but I compressed the dozen or so factors that they identified into two general categories. And I just want to put these before you to see if it helps you classify that robber of peace in your mind under one of these two general subject headings. And so the first category would be circumstances that are out of my control. Circumstances that are out of control will tend to rob us of peace of mind because they're uncertain. Because they're uncertain, they're unsettling. And so probably for most of us, coronavirus is in this category. It's out of our control. And as a result, it's uncertain. And so it's unsettling for us. We worry about it. We fear it for ourselves. We're anxious for our children. We're anxious for our loved ones. And it robs us of peace of mind. And out in our minds again and again. And I believe that we do this because we have this unconscious fantasy that if we just keep replaying the out of control situation over and over in our minds, we'll somehow on one of these replays, on one of these iterations as we keep playing it over and over, we're magically going to figure it out and get control of the situation. All right, does anyone know what I'm talking about? We just keep replaying and replaying and replaying. And so I want you to think about it. As you're considering this thing that's robbing you of peace of mind, would you say, oh yeah, this is something that just feels like it's out of my control. And I keep agitating on it internally to try to get it under my control. All right. Duke University, just moving on to the second general category, the study also listed several particular examples of circumstances or events that rob us of peace, but I would group them all together under the category of pain. Robbers of peace of mind is pain. Pain robs us of peace of mind. Physical pain, some of you know, can rob us of peace of mind, particularly for those who are facing chronic physical pain. It's unsettling. The pain of isolation, the Duke study said, was a very strong indicator of absence of peace of mind because isolation, it just churns over and over again in our hearts and our minds, and it robs us of peace. And then the pain of personal mistakes. The pain of personal mistakes can rob us of peace of mind. I don't know about you, but I will often replay internally my own mistakes over and over and over again in my mind as if I'm expecting on one of these trips around the mental merry-go-round. You know what I'm talking about? On one of these trips as I'm hitting the rewind, replay, mental merry-go-round. Nope, I still screwed up. Nope, still screwed up. And it's like if I just keep replaying it enough times, one of these times magically I'm going to come around like, oh, I didn't screw up this time. Right? Never happens. It never happens. And I find that this endless loop of mistake replay, it robs me of internal peace. Anybody else relate to that? All right. Okay, I'm not psychotic, or at least I am psychotic, but quite a few of us are. I'm glad to know I'm not alone. All right, so in like manner, I found that the pain of unresolved conflict or the pain of unresolved hurt robs me of peace of mind. When someone has robbed or wronged me or hurt me, or if somebody just simply doesn't see something the way I think that they should see it if they were sane? That was humorous. It was supposed to be. If they hurt me, they wrong me, they just don't see something the way I think they should see it, I will find myself again in this endless loop replay cycle in which I unconsciously fantasize that the offender, after one of my trips around the mental merry-go-round, this time will come to the dawning realization of how wrong they were. Kent, holy smokes, I can't believe I've been such an idiot this whole time. Right? How could I have missed it? I can't say it enough. I'm so sorry. You were right. You were right. You were right. Right? The mental merry-go-round, we're just waiting for that stop when they see how right we were. Never happens, does it? All right, so we keep just, no, they still think I'm wrong. It's still, right? And it robs us of peace of mind, our mental trips around the replay, rewind loop. It robs us of peace, right? Anybody else? You know that one? Okay, less people close to home. So I think for many of us, just pain, things that are out of control are what often contributes to this lack of internal peace. We keep rewinding and replaying because we have this magical internal fantasy that if we just keep traveling around the mental merry-go-round enough times, this time it's going to be okay. This time it's going to work out. Making sense? Are you tracking with me? All right. And so with that then, I knew this was going to be too long this morning. All right, just very quickly. I just want to highlight then some poor substitutes, some poor choices that we make then to try to get this sense of internal tranquility, of internal stability. These are poor substitutes then for peace of mind. And the first poor substitute I've just mentioned, it's this internal churning, this relentless mental rewind, replay loop that we'll do as an effort to make the turmoil magically work itself out this time around the mental merry-go-round. And we often find ourselves choosing this place of internal churning, but it never has the peaceful resolution that we fantasize it will have. Right? The internal churning mental rewind replay loop never produces peace of mind. All right? The second poor substitute for peace of mind is external churning. Not internal churning, but external churning. That is, we hit the rewind, replay loop out loud to other people, with other people, and we take other people with us on our fantasy trips around the mental merry-go-round. It's usually never the people we need to be having the honest conversations with. It's usually other people, but we take them with us on the mental merry-go-round trips. And so external churning, to try to get or complaining or bickering or murmuring or gossiping or backstabbing or whining or right, you know what I'm talking about? It's external churning. And external churning is the exact same magical fantasy trying to play itself out as the internal churn. If I just hit the rewind replay button enough times out loud with somebody else, I will get to the magical outcome. Kent, you are so right. Right? Never happens. It never happens. The external replays never end that way either. And so we keep hitting the rewind button and it robs us of peace. And unfortunately, everybody else around us too, who got stuck on Mr. Toad's Wild Ride with us. All right, let's have the worship team come forward. Going to land the plane in this very awkward place. So one last common poor substitute for peace of mind is denial in various forms. If we just pretend in some way that the thing that's out of control, that feels out of control, isn't there. If we just numb ourselves to it, we anesthetize ourselves to it. If we just pretend that the pain of my personal mistake didn't happen or it isn't there, or we pretend that the pain that some other person inflicted on me didn't happen, or it was somehow my fault. It was somehow my fault. Or if we can deny what's going on around us, the reality, by anesthetizing the pain with a substance or with a binge or with a binge watch or with a binge whatever. If we can do something to magically erase the reality of whatever it is that's robbing us of peace, if we can pretend it isn't there, then we can feel like we're living in pretend peace of mind. But the problem is it doesn't work, at least not for very long. It doesn't work for very long. And so to pull that all together in our search for peace of mind, particularly in a condition of exterior tumult, there are several choices that we'll often make which will serve as poor substitute for peace of mind. And one is just this internal churning, the other is external churning, and the other is just numbing out, it's denial. And so really with that background in mind for these poor substitutes and definitions of peace, we're ready to move forward now, finally. That was just the introduction. How do we step into the real deal peace of the Heavenly Father, particularly in the midst of what's going on around us? That's where we'll pick up next week. So let's stand. The worship team's going to lead us in a song of response. Just an opportunity for us to hit the pause button on the internal rewind, replay, trip around the mental merry-go-round. All right? We'll begin next week with that. That's just one of the applications. We just have to hit the pause button. We have to unplug the merry-go-round internally. If we're churning externally, we have to unplug it. And it's just a conscious choice. I'm not going to go there. It's robbing us of peace as much as we believe it's giving us some sense of peace. If we're checking out, if we're running into the shadows, thinking that that's giving us peace, we need to hit the pause button. Does that make sense? And so let's just bow our heads.